Remote Taoist temple. Anxia was abandoned as a baby, and he has been brought up and taught him well. When they can no longer feed everyone, his lord orders him to battle every other monk in the monastery, to determine who will leave. Anxia easily wins all of his other monks, but he is surprised to learn that winning also means leaving, because it implies he has grown strong enough to stop requiring training. In addition, his master believes that Anxia should experience the outside world now. Anxia is overcome by the city when he finally arrives, and he gets into problems right once. Since he doesn't know how to cross the street, he avoids cars by employing his martial arts prowess, and in the process, he manages to show off a little, winning the crowd's attention. Even though one of them throws him a coin, it is insufficient to buy food, and by the time night falls, Anxia is starving. Anxia decides to steal a food box from Dr. Shui, after spotting him leave a restaurant with it, which prompts Shui to start chasing him across town on his bicycle. When they finally reach the river, Shui falls into the water while Anxia narrowly avoids getting hit. Shui gives Anxia the food in return for saving him without hesitation. Additionally, he thinks Anxia is funny and has a kind soul, so he chooses to bring him back to his pharmacy, and hire him as his apprentice. The doctor's wife, Mrs. Shui, likes to spend time with her brother-in-law, rather than their husband, and doesn't pay much attention to him. At least she doesn't complain about Anxia's presence, and she also enjoys his entertainment of the parrot meals. Anxia learns how to assist Dr. Shui while he visits patients, and sells medication in his pharmacy. His knowledge of martial arts helps him divert those who are suffering, especially crying children. Dr. Shui pays Anxia for his assistance at the end of each day, but he spends half of his money on love tonic from his struggling brother Daorong. One afternoon, Shui discovers that Daorong has sold the store for the equivalent of a priceless ring, which infuriates him, because both of their businesses were passed down through the family. Daorong is unconcerned, though, and he reminds Shui that he left his monastic life in favor of a lady, so he is unable to speak. Anxia follows Dr. Shui as he storms out of the store to get an explanation. It turns out that Dr. Shui was formerly a monk at the same temple as Anxia, but one day, he observed a stunning woman praying, and decided to follow her to get her attention. That woman eventually changed her name to Mrs. Shui, and the monk abandoned everything to train as a doctor and worked tirelessly to support her. Shui's primary motivation for purchasing the love tonic on a regular basis was to pay off his brother's debt, but Daorong evidently doesn't value diligence. Later that night, Anxia hears an odd noise and climbs a ladder to check into Shui's room, only to find the couple having an intimate moment in bed. After they are finished, the doctor confides in his wife that he is concerned about his brother's future, but he won't give him another cent. Additionally, he assures Mrs. Shui that she won't ever need to worry about money, because he has a sizable stash of savings, stashed away behind the wardrobe on the wall. The following day, Anxia returns to the store to get more love tonic for Shui, but as soon as he enters, he overhears noises that suggest Mrs. Shui is having an extramarital affair with the doctor by way of his brother. He doesn't mention anything to the doctor, but he later confronts Mrs. Shui, who only tells him to stay out of her affairs. Later, after crying to Mrs. Shui about his debts and thoughts of terminating everything, Daorong persuades her to lend a hand. Additionally, Daorong provides her a more potent love tonic for the physician. Mrs. Shui tries to grab the funds from the wall when she gets home, but the doctor catches her in the act. Mrs. Shui explains the Daorong problem but assumes Anxia has already told him everything, and vows she won't see him again. Later on in the night, Anxia hears screaming. It is Mrs. Shui, who had the doctor pass away while they were trying to get flirtatious. Anxia agrees to take over the store as he bids farewell to his employer, and recalls the doctor's assurance that he will never go hungry. This enables him to locate the suspiciously empty tonic box. After the doctor leaves, Daorong comes to personally pick up Mrs. Shui, and they both disregard Anxia's advice to observe the customary 7 days of mourning. While on a boat excursion, Daorong and Mrs. Shui discuss how odd it is that Daorong isn't depressed. When she sees that Daorong poisoned the tonic, a fight breaks out, which causes the boat to tremble and eventually leak. They are unable to leave since they are imprisoned inside, but just as they are about to drown, Anxia appears to save them. Anxia, on the other hand, is still upset over what they did to the doctor, and all it takes is a split second of hesitation for him to miss the boat. Anxia, who is overcome with guilt, flees to a temple to seek atonement for his offenses. The abbot Rusong discovers him and has Anxia kneel before Buddha, so that he might be punished for killing. As is customary in Buddhism, Anxia spends the entire 7 days on his knees in penitence, before collapsing from exhaustion. Zhao enters the store despite the lock being present. When Anxia returns and encounters him there, he is a martial arts student who has a unique technique that can punch through walls. He has gone to the store to buy some medicine for his master, whom he will later battle. Anxia is quite taken aback by this powerful technique, so after making the transaction, he sneaks after Zhao to watch him battle his master Peng, despite the fact that Zhao maintains composure despite Peng's taunting, and both men are very talented. Peng eventually knocks up his student, Zhao doesn't give up and, using props he finds nearby, employs the special method to score the winning blow. However, this causes Zhao to acknowledge that he has been rehearsing his master's move behind his master's back. Peng doesn't mind and acknowledges that Zhao is more capable than his own son, therefore he will take over as head of his school. An exuberant Zhao begins to leave, but he abruptly drops to the ground, because Peng had been waiting for the perfect opportunity to betray him, and kill him with his umbrella, in order to get revenge for his stolen technique, and retain his son as his successor. The following day, Kuaizhi, Peng's son, arrives at Anxia's store to purchase some medication for his father. Additionally, he has some meat that he'd want to properly prepare. In exchange for sharing the lunch, Anxia agrees to let him use his kitchen. When the stew is prepared, Kuaizhi doesn't allow Anxia to eat until he has told him everything that happened during the battle. Things start to become strange when they find the meat has a particular poison that causes their faces to grow and causes them to have hallucinations. Anxia then decides they should get drunk to help them forget. After seeing the ghost of Mrs. Shui, Anxia and Kuaizhi visit a shrine to steal the donation box. Since they lack funds, the monk guarding the box is named Shu, and he immediately teaches them a lesson by beating them. In a fight that finishes with their skulls banging the ground, Anxia stays to apologize and asks Shu to be his master, but Shu declines him, causing Kuaizhi to flee in dread. The moment Kuaizhi shares what happened with Peng the following morning, Peng knows it must have been the same Shu he trained with when they were younger and that he must have stolen a technique from him. Anxia interrupts their chat by bringing over the medicine order. After Kuaizhi swiftly pushes him out, he tells his father that it was Anxia who first told him about the temple. As a result, Peng now believes that Anxia and Shu are working together. Anxia, meantime, gathers his belongings and bids the physician farewell at his altar before going back to the temple to implore Shu to instruct him once more. Anxia starts sweeping the area to demonstrate his utility, but Shu grabs the broom and demonstrates his unique cleaning method, before returning it and saying that even cleaning requires concentration. Later, a young woman approaches Anxia and claims that, according to her fortune, she will find her savior in the temple. Her greatest desire is to become a mother, and Anxia offers to assist her in fulfilling this ambition. Anxia visits Rusong for guidance in the evening, and they both close their eyes to connect in their brains. Anxia is told by Rusong about a hidden room in the temple, where men would lure women into getting pregnant, before locking the door long ago to guard it. Anxia is unsure of Rusong's humor in this situation, but when he opens his eyes, he discovers the room's key. When Anxia leads the girl to the room later, she learns there is a place for them to have a sexual encounter. The girl refuses to give him her name, because they won't be able to see each other again after their amazing night together. Later, after Shu has heard about this encounter, Anxia requests his side of the tale. When Shu's old master passed away, he gave him the ape strike method, and made him the school's heir, because his son Peng wasn't skilled enough. According to Shu, after Peng became enraged and attacked Shu until he fled the school, Shu is now waiting for the appropriate time to restore something to its rightful owner. Peng, who has arrived to request the top-secret booklet with his father's tactics, abruptly interrupts their chat. Although there has never been a manual like this, according to Shu, he has recorded everything he knows in a notebook so that he can finally give it to Peng to make up for their quarrel. Anxia rushes to get the manual after Peng throws it into the kitchen fire, but Peng swiftly jumps in to hit him away, in order to prevent things from getting physical. Shu apologizes to Peng for leaving all those years ago, and says that he now realizes he should have stayed, so the two of them could study together. Peng is still resentful despite his best efforts to bow in respect, therefore a fight breaks out. Many pieces of the temple are destroyed by their kung fu moves, and Shu repeatedly needs to shove Anxia aside to stop Peng from striking him as well. Peng gives up the fight and leaves the temple, when he notices how quickly Shu is taking a student outside. However, as soon as the doors close, Peng realizes he was only acting, and utilizes his special technique to assault through the wall. Shu grabs his broom and uses his abilities to create a cyclone of leaves that serves as a shield as a statue explodes, and the flying fragments pursue him. When Peng enters the house to inspect his victory, Shu jumps on him and the fight resumes. Shu realizes the full moon is out and uses its energy to control the water from a fountain to force Peng back, as he prepares to utilize his special skill once more. However, Peng's attempt only partially fails as a result of the stream splitting in two and striking both men at once. Peng takes advantage of the opportunity to flee, but as soon as he returns home, he collapses. When Kuaizhi quickly searches the drawers for medicine and discovers a gun next to it, the image of the weapon stays in his head, as he looks after his father. While they initially begin with the idea of the forces of nature, Anxia eventually persuades Shu to teach him his tactics. In return, Anxia says he returned the notepad to Shu, after saving it from the flames. Later, while Anxia is sound asleep, he hears a few gunshots booming through the temple. He rushes outside only to find Shu shot. A dead Anxia doesn't know who Cha is, so she takes Shu to visit Rusong instead of fulfilling Shu's wish to see him one final time. and give him the notebook. After the monk explains to Xu that this is the outcome of karma, Xu finally realizes how the cycle has ended, and after seeing his companion Cha in his heart, his soul departs in peace. In the meantime, Peng awakens to learn that his son shot Xu. A few days later, Anxia travels to the city after finding out that Cha is now a performer in the nearby theater. After the performance, Anxia tells Cha what occurred, but despite seeing the bloodstained clothes and visiting the temple, Cha doesn't believe her, especially considering that Xu has never taken students before. Anxia adds further proof to his story, and Cha responds by saying he knew Xu before they enrolled in the Kung Fu school. Together, the two of them served in the army. When Cha was merely a performer going through withdrawal, he fled in terror when his first battle began, but Xu pursued him and assisted him. Throughout the fight, he remained rational. Anxia informs Cha that Peng most likely killed his friend, and Cha seeks retribution for the loss of his friend. Cha appears on stage just to cancel another performance that he still has to finish. Infuriated by this, Police Commissioner Liren, who had spent extra money on premium seats for his girlfriend, orders his men to exact retribution. Cha can easily take down a number of police officers, and when Liren attempts to shoot him, he may be taken out by Cha after moving quickly enough to do so. The following day, Liren contacts Peng to coordinate their vengeance. Liren phones Cha while posing as an arresting officer, to notify him that Xu's killer has been apprehended, and that Cha is free to visit tomorrow when Peng is transferred to prison. Cha agrees, and Peng and Liren prepare a trap for his men. Cha and Anxia perform a special ritual in the evening, to bless Cha's spear with Xu's bloody clothing. A balance between nature and enjoyment must be struck in life, according to Cha, who reveals that after the two of them trained in the wilderness for years, Xu declared it was time to leave their cave and for Cha to return to the stage. Cha plans to continue living by those words. The following day, Liren and Kuaitzi remain in Peng's car while their men conduct the ambush, but Cha and Anxia quickly defeat them all thanks to their effective teamwork. The two men then start fighting in their minds, as Cha approaches the automobile and requests a one-on-one duel from Peng. Although Peng cheats by having one of his men strike Cha when he is unconscious and injures his arm, their skills are fairly comparable. This is insufficient to stop Xu, who leaps exceedingly high before launching his spear at Peng and trapping him against a tree, while using the light of the sun for a special attack. Peng responds that he did it to defend his son. When Cha questions whether he actually killed Peng, Anxia strikes Kuaitzi several times and takes the gun from him, as she considers firing when Kuaitzi suddenly appears with the gun, and admits it was him. Peng is inspired to take Cha's spear and put an end to things, offering his life in return for his sons, so that the new generation can start over without hatred in their pasts. Kuaitzi points out that Xu had seen him but never spoke his name, proving he wished to stop this cycle of retaliation. These comments cause Peng to take action and end things. Liren then drives off after shooting Cha in the leg, which causes Anxia and Kuaitzi to pursue him. Anxia's jumps are unsuccessful in stopping the automobile, but when Liren makes a poor turn, he finds Cha and uses his spear to send the vehicle into the lake and cause it to explode. Then, having finally encountered both good and evil in his life, Anxia returns to the mountains with Xu to complete his training. The end. If you like this story, please subscribe to the channel and like it to motivate me to bring you more stories like this.